Welcome to the Leaders of Lasting Impact podcast. I'm Matt Pohl, your host. And today I have Ellia Harris, who is the Chief Innovation Coach at the Potential Center. Ellia, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Matt.
Yeah, so I'd like to just start off. Our audience is primarily small and mid-sized business owners. And so we want to share with them something from your background, how you're helping that kind of that marketplace. And maybe we should start by just have you tell a little bit about your background in business and that type of thing.
Sure. My background is not a traditional background. I have many elements to it, and I think that contributes to how I ended up where I am today. So I actually trained to be a teacher and then decided not to go into teaching secondary education. Having said that, I've incorporated a lot of teaching in my career over the
Yeah.
years. So I went into marketing and did that for a while, and then decided to move into the nonprofit sector because I felt I was more able to make a difference that way. And
Okay.
I went up the ladder and I ended up in leadership roles at a handful of nonprofits, both in the UK and the US. And that's where I developed my interest in leadership and also in creative problem solving. So I've been going back and forth for most of that time between leadership roles and doing training and coaching in creative problem solving, leadership skills, and communication skills. I also have been a productivity coach, helping people be more productive in the way they work. And I also taught English in Mexico. So,
Oh, really?
so I have a very broad background. But
Okay.
I
So,
came back to my love of creative problem solving and innovation in 2019.
okay. Great. Yeah, like you said, really varied, but all around, I would say kind of human potential and bringing out the best of people and teaching and communicating them so they become better versions of themselves, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. What what was the transition from maybe those nonprofits and this kind of varied background? Was there a point where you kind of turned the page and become a business advisor, or was that sprinkled in throughout those years?
It was both accidental and intentional. The intentional part was that after I had myself been on a leadership training course and realized that I was doing everything right, and that I wanted to pass those skills on to other people, that's when I started doing my own training for how to be a trainer, train the trainer, so to
Right,
speak.
right.
So that was the intentional part. The accidental part was when I got laid off of one of my jobs and or the job at the time, and the CEO told me, well, you've been talking about wanting to be a trainer, maybe this is
Mhm.
your opportunity.
There you
So
go.
that was the accident.
Okay. Well, that turned out to be fortuitous, right? And how long have you been doing your own thing? You're as a trainer, a coach.
All told, about 10 years. So I
Okay.
started doing training in the early 2000s. And as I explained, my career path hasn't exactly been A, B, C, D.
Right.
So, but it has altogether been just over 10 years. I think it's 11 years at this point.
Okay. Uh, what kinds of businesses, whether that's size, geography, industry, you know, tell us a little bit about the clients you serve. What can you tell us about those?
Yeah, I particularly enjoy working with small to medium-sized enterprises, as well as social enterprises and nonprofit sector organizations. And I especially like working with new managers because I think that they face so many challenges, even more challenges now than ever before. And having been a new manager myself several times over, I can identify with the issues that they're having. I can understand the challenges that they're facing. So I think that they understand that I understand them when we're, in a coaching session or in training.
Okay. And so industry across various industries, you said nonprofits are part of that, but within uh, profit-based businesses, any particular industries that you've had more success in than others?
Um, it's more a case of who I want to work with. I have a very special place in my heart for sustainability enterprises.
Okay.
So that's the direction that I like to go. As long as I feel that there is some kind of a connection and affinity with an organization, I'm happy to work with them as long as they feel they can work with me. That's the important thing. So, whether it's a startup, I put my hands up and say I'm not a techie person.
Mhm.
So that may be an area that isn't such a good fit.
Okay.
But I'm always willing to have that conversation to see where the fit lies.
What portion of your clients are there in the Seattle area versus, I think a lot of us are doing a lot more remote consulting and coaching.
Yeah. It's about half and half. You get known in the area where you live. So
Mhm.
that's no surprise. And of course, I relaunched my business just before the pandemic. And
Right.
so, uh, like a lot of other people, I had to pivot. And that's where the virtual side of the business started taking off.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what happened to us. I was literally down in Dallas doing a kind of our first launch of our official product service kind of a thing in March, early March 2020. And it was on my way back where I first heard of COVID and NBA was shutting down, and I was like, "What in the world is going on?" But
Mhm.
yeah, like you said, the silver lining is it forced us, like you, it sounds like, to pivot to be able to make sure that you could be effective remotely as well and virtually, as opposed to only in person. So,
Yeah. And actually, that was an opportunity for me to also think about what I wanted to do with the potential center. And I came to the conclusion, a- again, accidentally, I think a lot of things happen accidentally with me, that the way I work with people in terms of the way I train and the way I coach is it's about two things. It's about developing leadership skills, and it's about helping people facilitate creative problem solving.
right.
And I had been talking all along at that point that being able to facilitate creative problem solving actually makes you a better manager, a better leader of a high performing team. And then I realized one day it's actually the way I combine the two, that in a lot of cases, you can find leadership courses and you can find courses on how to do creative problem solving. But as far as I'm aware, I'm the only person that actually merges the two together. And I think this came about because I was assessing what I had to offer in a virtual environment. And I realized that I know how to do both of these things. And if I can get people solving problems faster, that's my ultimate goal,
Mhm.
then why not? So, here I still am combining developing leadership skills with facilitating creative problem solving.
Okay. When clients come to you and it's a good fit, what kind of challenges are they bringing uh, to the table? What's the pain point that they come to you and say, "Hey, it seems like you could help us with this." What are some of those top things?
Um, there are two basic things that people generally say. One is that they wish their team was more productive,
Okay.
and the other is they wish their team came up with better ideas.
Mm.
And the two often go hand in hand. So those are the two things that I actually work on with either in coaching or in training. And what I also did to help those leaders who wanted to work on their own is I developed a course called Lightbulb Moments. And it's a podcast style course. And it basically takes everything that I do in coaching and
Mhm.
puts it into that course, which has a workbook with it so that people can learn in their own time at their own pace. And there is a coaching session included in that. So they still get a little bit of time with me.
Oh, that's awesome. Was that something that you did post-COVID and saw that as a new product to bring to the market?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Um, tell us, tell me just a little bit about the light bulb moments. What are some key principles? When I think of creative problem solving, can people who aren't creative get better at creative problem solving, and how do you help them to do that?
Sure. So, light bulb moments is the whole package, which combines leadership development and facilitating creative problem solving. The framework that I developed for facilitating creative problem solving is called light bulb thinking. So that's part of light bulb moments. So the
Okay.
framework, it's very simple, and I purposely kept it simple because I think too often we overwhelm people with information. So there's four phases to light bulb thinking. The first one is planning. And part of that is making sure you get the problem right. The second phase is ideating, and that's all that juicy brainstorming stuff that we do. The
Right.
third phase is choosing out of all those ideas that you come up with, how do you choose the one or the ones that you move forward with? And then the fourth stage is either implementing or innovating. So it may be that you have almost all the resources in terms of budget and people to implement your idea. So, you just go ahead and do that straight
Yeah.
away.
Okay.
Or you think the idea is worth developing as an innovation, in which case that's a whole other path that I can help people with.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Like you said, that's simple, but gives people a framework. Do you think just having steps, just kind of being able to organize that a little bit for them is part of the value, and that a lot of times it's just kind of a I don't know, a free for all is normally what you see going into a client?
Yeah, most definitely. I think that people are overwhelmed by the thought of having to come up with creative ideas, and they simply don't know how to do it. Even if they have an MBA, it's not the kind of thing that you learn in
Right.
business school.
No.
So this is why I spend a lot of my time demystifying this process of creative problem solving. It's why I came up with the light bulb thinking framework so that
Mhm.
you can take things one step at a time. Because I don't know about you, Matt, but I find that I'm more successful. The more time I put into planning something, the
Mm.
more likely it is to end up with a positive result at the other end.
Yeah, I would agree. We have some of the same ideas around problem solving, that a big part of it is formulating what is the problem that you're trying to solve, right? And if you don't get that planning done, sounds like that's what you refer to it. You're headed down. Well, it doesn't focus the team, right? You're not clear what is even trying to be solved, and everybody's coming up with a wide range of ideas, but they may be totally inapplicable to
Exactly.
what you're
And
trying
the
to.
other important thing about that phase is that you want to make sure that y the goal that you have, which comes from identifying the problem correctly, is in line with the organization's mission, its
Right.
vision, its values. Because if you spend all this work going chasing after an idea that doesn't align with that, you've just wasted so much time and effort.
Yeah, no, that's great. I was wondering if you could share maybe one or two stories of businesses or individuals that are within small or mid-sized businesses, of what the situation was, how you came alongside and had a lasting impact on that business, on that team.
Sure. When I was living in the UK, there was an organization in one of the counties around London that it was kind of like a small business administration.
Oh, okay.
And they were starting to work with social enterprise leaders. And I think here they would be B Corp, is what social enterprises are here.
Okay.
So the manager of that program came to me and said, we haven't done a lot of work with social enterprises. You have, and we want some way of giving them support because they were all from very small organizations. A lot of them had moved into these leadership positions without any training. So, what I
Mhm.
developed for them was a 6-month program. The first month was weekly training sessions, and it was a maximum of 10 participants so that they could get, a lot of time with me. So,
Right.
training and some one to one coaching time. And then we moved into monthly peer to peer coaching sessions. The idea being that they had the opportunity to put the principles that they'd learned into practice by coaching each other.
Okay.
And that had a very good result. So 90% of the people reported that the course met their expectations for useful information and practical advice very well. And when I went back to the advisor some months later, she said that, most of the leaders, one or two had difficulties, but most of the leaders were still benefiting from that training and they kept in touch with her and appreciated that training.
Okay. Cool. Um, this is maybe off topic, but how long were you in the UK?
I was there for 25 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, okay. So that was with a social enterprise over in the UK, really developing what sound like was maybe not young, but new leaders, new managers, getting them the skills and um, uh, making them successful to facilitate the success of the business or the organization.
Yeah.
What's maybe another opportunity that for you to have that lasting impact?
So one of the clients that I worked with was a technology college, also in the UK, and they had an issue where there were students that were bunking off school. They just weren't turning up,
Okay.
and they started putting some. Um, sorry, I'm going to start again. They started putting some restrictions into place, some penalties, and they felt bad about it because they felt that there was something more that they could be doing. So they brought me in. I worked with the senior leaders at the school, and we discovered that the students weren't engaged in their academic path. And so we came up with some ideas. And one of the things that I did with them, because they were so unused to brainstorming, was I made it okay for them to come up with silly ideas. And
Okay.
this, oddly enough, this is one of the best principles when you're brainstorming is that sometimes the sillier the idea, the better. So I was able to model some silly ideas and it really got them going. So, one of the things that they did was they carried out a survey among students and they discovered that the students really wanted more time with their teachers. They wanted more mentoring time. So they
Right.
put a mentoring program into place. And they also established a student peer to peer coaching program. So, kind of a buddy system.
Yeah.
And that worked really well. They took on board those principles in terms of not always relying on themselves to come up with the answers, but also involving the students or some of the staff who worked more closely with students in terms of advisors to come up with ideas and listen to the students themselves. And so that through that exercise or that series of exercises, they were able to improve the attendance rate, graduation rate increased by something like 20%, which was pretty good
Oh, yeah.
considering the area of London that they were in. So, really some good achievements there.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. And that plays into your educational background too, right? So,
Yes.
yeah. Um, as we kind of come to the end of our time, I'd like you to share any kind of general advice, maybe a word of advice for business owners, small to mid-sized enterprises, their owners, leaders. If there's kind of one theme that you've seen, maybe a shortfall or a gap that's common, what would you say to them?
I'm going to give a slightly different answer to the question that you asked. Coming back to the fact that it took me a while to recognize that the way I combine developing leadership skills with facilitating creative problem solving is unique.
Mhm.
So, from that, I would say take time to find what your USP is and then shine a light on it because that's what's going to separate you from the rest of the market.
Okay, so really honing in, and that's what it sounds like you've done, right? Is you found the two ingredients that when put together are unique, and that's what you're suggesting for business owners to make sure they've taken the time to see what makes them, their organization unique in the marketplace as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Elia, that's great. If somebody wants to reach out to you, get in touch with you to learn about how you might be able to help them with those two things, the combination of management training and creative problem solving and increasing and improving those skill sets in their organization, how could they reach you?
Two ways. They can go to the website, which is thepotentialcenter.com. There is a contact page on there. There's also a calendar if you want to book a strategy session with me, a free session just to start the conversation. The other way is just to email me. And instead of spelling out my name and risking getting that wrong, I came up with the email address hello@thepotentialcenter.com. So, two easy ways to get to me.
Okay, so thepotentialcenter.com or via email hello@thepotentialcenter.com. We'll put that in the podcast notes so you can easily reach out to Elia. And again, I appreciate you being a guest and tell us a little bit about how you're impacting small and mid-sized businesses, both in the UK and here in the States. And we appreciate our audience too listening in, and we're sure that you'll get some value here as a business owner, some new ideas that you can apply to making your business more exceptional. So we thank you for your time and hope you'll join us on our next episode of Leaders of Lasting Impact.